Hello there. Welcome to this edition of the Drawing TV. My name is Ida Andersen Lang, and if you have been following along, you know that we are in the middle of a small series about the cornerstones, the core elements of drawing. So, in the first chapter or whatever, I talked briefly about all three cornerstones because, in my mind, drawing can be cut, broken down into three main compartments or three major blocks of things you should focus on. You can always subdivide anything in innumerable smaller parts, but I think it's very, very helpful in drawing to make things as simple in your mind as possible. So in the first part we talked about these three corner elements, and if you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend you to go back and watch. So last time I talked about the first cornerstone, which is, in my mind, form. There are three components, three cornerstones: form, contour, and light and shade. There are different opinions in what succession these three parts should fall, in order of relevance. But I think the right order is form, contour, light, and shade for many reasons. So today we're going to talk in depth a little bit about contour. So we talked about form last time. I showed you my hand and we talked about that what is seen on the inside here. This surface is what I call form, and it can be like subdivided, in relation to how complicated any subject is. We could say like this, for example, that all my fingers is a individual form. This is a whole like super form, and you can always break down forms into smaller and smaller parts, but it's always very, very, very helpful to see the main form first and then divide it into smaller forms. And where does contour come in? Contour comes in that when we view anything in life or in a drawing or whatever, there will always be lines that are in some manner dividing your forms into smaller parts. You can see a clear dark line here. There is some clear lines here. There will fall a bit of shadow, or there will be lack of light between some forms, and that actually that is what is visually transcribed into contour. Or it could be that there is a clear difference in value between two forms. It could be my dark shirt here and the light hand here. So here you will have a very, very sharp contour, very, very sharp division between this form and this form. So contour is always the lines that are forming in your eyes, we can say, that is dividing one form from another. And of course it's a little bit abstract to think in this way, and as I always say, form and contour is like two sides of a coin. You can't separate them at all, and you could possibly argue that that they're not two individual things. But in terms of drawing, it's really, really helpful to think deeply about this and focus on both practicing contour or line in one, for itself, and form for itself, to make these merge together in a meaningful way. So usually I think it's most helpful in drawing to start focusing on form, because it's a little bit more familiar, there's a little more 3D and body to it. So when you start up a drawing, any drawing, and no matter what level you're on, what level of skill you're in or on, you always start with trying to render the forms as good as you can. We are not going into any details or measurement. It's just as good as you can. And when you've done that to a certain level in your drawing, you can start refining your drawing with line and contour. Contour and line is the same thing. And remember that contour is not necessarily just a rigid, uniform, sharp line that runs around everything. No, it's more like it can have many different looks or many different characteristics. It can be sharp or unsharp. It could be subtle, or it could be very dark. And try to really look at your subjects and try to vary the way you are rendering lines, you're rendering the contours. That is the tip, that is the golden egg of today. And think deeply about this and try to incorporate that when you're practicing drawing, no matter if you're a total beginner, intermediate, or if you're really like a drawing ninja. We don't know. All levels are equal somehow. All levels are welcome. The most important thing is define yourself as someone who draws. If you want to draw, if you desire to draw, and then just get going. And try to use these tips and you will soon be on your way. Look out for the next chapter where I will give you the last tip in my drawing philosophy. Have a nice day and I'll see you later.